Hey guys, it's Mo with Moojuk, and welcome to the third installment of the Zen Mo podcast, the only podcast in the world where we cover polishing the diamond and enlightening the mind. A book that teaches us true inner peace, happiness, resilience, and also learning how to work and live for the benefit of others. Today we are going to talk about the impossible, or more specifically, everything that people perceive to be impossible. For centuries, for eons, people have always been intrigued by the notion of impossible challenges, impossible tasks. And those who were able to complete these impossible challenges and tasks, they were considered the top 1% of society. They were considered our heroes. They were considered our leaders that led us down a victorious path, a prosperous path. Now, let's go back a few thousand years, a few 100,000 years, and go to ancient Greece. Now, in ancient Greece, there was this hero. His name was Hercules, and he was considered to be the most powerful man on earth. But not only the most powerful, the most resilient. In his mind, he did not know the word impossible. Even if he looked it up in a dictionary, Hercules, he would not understand what impossible meant, unlike 99% of the population. So, one day, Hercules, he was minding his own business, and this evil king came up to him and basically forced him to do these impossible tasks that no mere mortal had ever completed before. And of course, the evil king wanted to see Hercules fail and die, but Hercules, he was able to persevere, and he was able to complete these 12 impossible labors, as they were called. He was able to kill this invincible lion. He was forced to go to the underworld. He was forced to go to hell, but he came out alive, and also, in his hand, he had the guardian of hell with him. So, of course, this is a fictional story, a fictitious tale, but this just goes to show people have always been interested in something impossible, and also those that were able to complete these impossible tasks. Now let's turn to something a little more relatable for people. Now, I'm sure everybody has, at least once in their life, heard this name before. Lamborghini. Now, what are some of the words that pop up in your head when you think of Lamborghini? For a lot of people, it would probably be associated with billionaires, millionaires, playboys, even philanthropists, right? In the movie Iron Man, in the movie Doctor Strange, these rich doctors and businessmen, they're portrayed as having Lamborghinis, these loud sports cars that portray their wealth. Now, Lamborghini, it had very, very humble beginnings. The owner, the creator of Lamborghini, whose name was Ferruccio Lamborghini, he was just this part-time mechanic. He was just this very, very small businessman in a very small town. And at the time, Ferrari was booming. It was taking off. Everybody was buying a Ferrari, and Ferrari was basically the main car company that everybody would go to. Today, it would sort of be considered as the Kia or the Hyundai of Italy. Now, Ferrari, the cars were great, right? The design was sleek, the engines were amazing, the sounds were beautiful. But Ferruccio Lamborghini, he discovered that the Ferrari engines, they weren't 100% perfect, and he had this idea that if he was able to tweak the engines just a little bit, Ferrari would be a 2,000% better car than it already was. He knew that this was the most lucrative thing that he had discovered, and he immediately went to Ferrari's founder, I believe his name was Enzo Ferrari, and he was trying to strike a deal. He was trying to make a contract saying that I want to work for you, I want to be part of your empire, and I want to create the best car, the better car than today. So he went to Enzo Ferrari and he told him his deal. He said that the engine is faulty and that I can make it better. But of course, the creator of Ferrari, the owner of this huge car conglomerate, he looks at this random street bum and he says, "No, get out of my face. I don't want you to be here, and you're probably lying to me." So, of course, Ferruccio, he comes back home. He's depressed. He's sad, and he thinks that what he just did was something that no other person could do. Who goes to the CEO of a company giving them a brand new idea, right? Just a random average person on the street. Nobody would do that. But in Ferruccio's mind, there was no such thing as impossible. So Ferruccio Lamborghini, instead of being part of Ferrari's empire, he decided to create his own. He created his own brand, Lamborghini, and these are the cars that we see today. One of the best sports cars in the world, considered to be the top 1% cars that people are always saving up money or always investing, always trying to buy. It's hundreds, thousands, millions of people's dream cars, and it all started from this one man, Ferruccio Lamborghini, that wanted to sell his engine to a different person, but built his own empire due to his mindset. His mindset of never giving up, persevering, and knowing that nothing in life was impossible. Now, everybody knows the story of Ferruccio Lamborghini, Enzo Ferrari. It's a very famous story, but now I'd like to turn to something a little more unknown. So in the year of 2018, there was this one man. He was an ex-Marine, and he went by the name of George Hood. And he was responsible for breaking the world record, of the longest plank in one position. Now, his record was 8 hours and 15 minutes. Imagine sitting in a chair for 8 hours. Imagine standing for 8 hours. Imagine walking for 8 hours. Nobody can do that, let alone a plank. A plank is lying in a push-up position for however much you can handle. Now, this man, he was able to handle it. He was able to persevere for 8 hours and 15 minutes. For many people, they would consider it insane, preposterous, something that probably a god could do. But this man, George Hood, he was able to break this record, probably because of his insane training that he did in the Marines, but also because of his grit and the ability to look through the impossible and find the possible. But that's not the only surprising thing. The craziest thing about this story is that a week ago, on September 8th, Daniel Scully, he beat the previous world record, and he beat it by an entire hour. Daniel Scully, and the new world record for the longest plank in the world, is now 9 hours. So Daniel Scully beat George Hood by an entire hour, and I've seen the video of the Guinness World Record, of the Guinness Book of World Records on YouTube, and it shows Daniel Scully sweating, almost crying, screaming for help, trying to overcome this insane struggle. And at the very last minute, the few seconds that were left, you could see that his knees were trembling, his body was about to cave in, and he was about to give up. But when the countdown started for 20 seconds, I believe, you could see it on his face. You could see the determination. You could see it in his eyes that he was not going to give up. He was not going to lie down, and there was no such thing as something impossible. How could one man, one mere mortal, that will probably die in 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, complete such an impossible task? Now, it all comes down to the mind, because in reality, the mind shelters no impossibilities. We are just creating this facade of impossible tasks in our soul and in our mind. Now, speaking of how the mind doesn't shelter any impossibilities, I'd like to turn to the mind that shelters no impossibilities. On page 79, for those of you who have the book, for those who don't and who are first-time listeners, sit back, enjoy the show. So, I once knew a person who ran a rice mill. At his mill, whenever he saw the strong workers easily picking up large sacks of rice, he used to think, I should be able to do that, and he became envious of them. He knew that there was no way he could lift a sack of rice with his limited strength at that time. So every time he saw a sack of rice, he endlessly surrendered his sense of impossibility by reciting Mirukjon Yorebur, which is this mantra that means, in this life I am a humble servant of Lord Buddha, But in the next life, perhaps if I cleanse my spirit or cleanse my soul enough in this life, I will become an enlightened being, or maybe even a dharma in the afterlife. So this is just one of hundreds of thousands of mantras that exist around the world. Now, the most important aspect of overcoming the wall of impossibility is having a mantra. Not a fancy mantra, not a pretentious mantra that says, work and live, and I shall become a better person by giving to others. I will give away all of my money. No, not like that. A simple mantra. A very simple mantra that conveys your inner thoughts and your true feelings when it comes to certain things. It can be for your family. It can be for your job. It can be for money. So, to create a mantra, it's not that difficult. The most difficult thing about a mantra is continuing to have this mantra in your heart. So, let's talk about let's bring a metaphor about a mind and impossible tasks. So let's say that impossible tasks, it's this gigantic 10-foot tall wall, right? And you have to climb this wall and it's very slippery. But let's say that your very own mantra is sort of like the escalator that helps you get to the top of this slippery wall without any trouble. So what I'm basically saying is that if you have any mantra at all, it will make completing an seemingly impossible challenge almost seem easy, like a piece of cake. So one day, one of the sacks of rice appeared very small to him. He lifted it up and threw it, and it landed far away. Everyone around him looked at him with shocked expressions. Since he had been surrendering the notions of heaviness to the extent that he had surrendered those notions, that much Dharma power had been awakened in him. With that Dharma power, he was able to throw the sack of rice. And of course, some of you may think, oh my gosh, this story is so fake, it's fictitious. Why would I believe that? It's impossible. And that is the exact mindset that this chapter and I am talking about. This chapter, it may or may not be true, but it is a metaphor for how powerful and how amazing a mantra can be in your life. Let's continue. If you pass on to the next life with a belief in your inability to do a certain thing, then in your next life, you will still not be able to do that thing. Without even talking about the life to come, if you practice the mind of impossibility in this life, even things that are possible now will become impossible. When you surrender the notion of both possibility and impossibility to Buddha, however, and face your problems without any preconceived notions, you will be able to accomplish your goals naturally. And so that was the chapter, The Mind That Shelters No Impossibilities. So just a brief recap. Today we talked about how humans have overcome impossible challenges, impossible tasks throughout these centuries of human civilization, and also how you can implement these ideas and implement these sort of mantras in your daily life to not only find peace, but also live and work for the benefit of not only yourself, but mankind. So this was the third installment of the Zenmo podcast. I hope you take a good listen to it again, listen to it 10 times, 100 times, give us more views, like the video, and listen more to our podcast, share it with your friends, and I shall see you in the next one. Alright, so that was The Mind That Shelters No Impossibilities, and I hope everybody that's listening right now takes away the key points of creating a mantra and realizing that the impossible task that you have right in front of you today is simply a slippery wall that you can easily jump over and easily climb. So, that was the third installment of the Zenmo podcast. Thank you all for listening. Please leave a like, and yes, if you leave a like, the algorithm will help our channel grow, and then I will be able to produce more videos. But anywho, once again, thank you all. Please share it with your friends, listen to it multiple times, and I shall see you all in the next one.